potato poultice is excellent on a swollen ankle that may be from a sprained ankle. It'll bring the tissue inflammation down, whereas the ginger's for joint inflammation, the potato is for tissue inflammation. It's also a drawer, and I have seen it draw a big splinter out. It happened in my son. He had a big splinter in the bottom of his foot. We didn't know what was in there, we just know he'd hurt his foot. He was running along where there are some sleepers around a swimming pool. We'd gone to a friend's house and they'd landscaped all around their pool like an oasis with palms. It was very beautiful, but they'd got old sleepers, you know, the railway sleepers. But I guess in some areas they were rotting down a bit, and William ran and hurt his foot against it, knocked just under his big toe. He came running to me crying. He was about 10, I think, at the time, and I had a look. I couldn't see anything, but there was a hole there. So when we went home, we put the grated potato poultice on because it was beginning to swell. I probably made it a little smaller than this for a 10-year-old foot. And you just place it on, the plastic over it stops or prevents the poultice getting cold, but it also prevents soiling the clothes or sock around it, and then you bandage it on. That's why you always make sure it's well covered with the plastic. I don't wrap the whole area with plastic because I really don't like plastic on the skin. It's just enough to keep it from chilling and also to protect the clothes. Now, I did this every night for William because he was still limping. And after two and a half weeks, William's still limping. And the poultice was keeping the foot from swelling, but he was still limping. And a friend visited. And I said to the friend, I don't know what's the matter with William. He's still limping. He pushed the bottom of William's foot, and William, he nearly hit the roof. He yelled. My friend said, I can feel a lump of wood in that foot. He will need surgery to get that out. My friend was a natural therapist, but he said, this is in too deep. William looked at me. I said, it's all right, William, we're going to try grated potato surgery. Now, I was just doing it overnight. So now I got really serious. I did it overnight, and in the morning I did a hot and cold foot bath on him. We talked about this a little bit in the water lecture. So what I did was I gave him a hot foot bath for 3 minutes, and I gave him a very cold foot bath for 30 seconds. And I did this 3 times. You see, with hot and cold, they both have a stimulating effect. And after 3 minutes, the blood starts to slow down when it's been in hot water. Everything starts to relax, so we take it out of the hot and we put it into the cold. And that stimulates. But after 30 seconds, everything starts to slow down, so we put it back in the hot. So I did this 3 times. 3 hots, 3 colds. And then I put the grated potato on overnight. I did this because it increased blood flow to the area, which is the healer. In the morning, I did another hot and cold, and then I did another grated potato poultice till the middle of the day. And then I changed the poultice again. So he was getting 3 potato poultices in the 24-hour period. His foot was starting to look like a dried prune, but I didn't mind. We had to get that little bit of wood out. After 2.5 days, I saw a little black dot appear in a hole in the bottom of his foot. Now, this black dot was about the size of a lentil. We got a needle and put it into the side of it and pulled it out, and it would have been easily a little bit more than 1 inch long. So that's a big splinter to have in a 10-year-old foot. We were just so grateful. We just thank God that it came out. Is there a time when we would have gone to the doctor? If his foot swelled, if there was no relief in what we were doing, I certainly would have. But I was talking to a friend of mine who's a doctor, and he said he had a young boy come in who had a piece of bamboo that went into the back of his foot. They took him into surgery, they opened it, but they couldn't find it. And he said, you can't keep cutting the tissue. And he knew natural remedies from when he was a boy, so he told the mother, go home and do hot and colds every morning, every night. It'll increase the blood flow to the area. And little by little, the body, it pushed that bit of bamboo out. So I'd also knew of that story. And because William wasn't in pain, the grated potato poultice had kept all the swelling down, I knew that we could do what we were doing. And it came out. Can you imagine if I hadn't done the hot and colds and hadn't done the grated potato? His foot would have swollen up. He possibly would have got blood poisoning. And that's when I discovered how powerful that grated potato is. It soothes the area, it brings the swelling out, and it enabled his body, and it worked with his body to get that splinter out. I wouldn't be surprised if that splinter was a good centimetre or half an inch down into the foot, but little by little it drew it out. See, the body's designed to heal itself, and these simple remedies, they are aiding the body in its process to actually be able to draw it out. If someone has conjunctivitis or red eyes or sore eyes, they can put a grated potato poultice on their eyes. It's very gentle. A friend of mine rang one day when her little chap was only about 10 months old. I heard him screaming in the background. I said, what's the matter with Louis? She said, his little penis is swollen twice the size. Now what are you going to do? And if you take him to hospital, what are they going to do? So I said, quickly, make up a grated potato poultice about this size and lay it over his whole scrotum area and put his nappy, or you call it a diaper, on. She said within about 10 minutes of putting this on, he settled right down. You see, it was so hot, inflamed, and most pain is due to inflammation, and this gets the inflammation down. He slept for a couple of hours. My friend kept going and checking on him. She couldn't believe that. She was worried, was he all right? And he certainly was. He was peaceful and sleeping. So he slept for 2 hours, and when he woke up, she took the diaper off, the nappy off, and everything was back to normal. Sometimes you don't know what is causing the swelling. Now the little fella was a crawling baby, and maybe he was crawling around and something bit him in that area, maybe a little bit of dust got in the area. You do not know, but she did not have any more troubles there. So if in doubt, put the grated potato on. The grated potato is very gentle, it's very soothing, and it's very good on hot, inflamed, angry areas. Ingrown toenails, it's excellent. With ingrown toenails, you do the hot and cold, and then you would apply the grated potato. And the hot and colds, they can bring relief sometimes by the end of the treatment. I remember one more story of this happened in New Zealand a few years ago now, and a lady was seeing me, and she brought her son, and he was 7, and I noticed that his finger was twice the size. I said, what's the matter with his finger? She said, oh, he's got cellulitis. I said, yes, but why? You know, Newton's third law of motion, to every action there's an equal and an opposite reaction. Why? There is always a reason. She said, well, he was playing with his Matchbox cars in the dirt. He had a blister. The blister burst, and of course what happened is dirt got in. You see, our skin is like a suit of armour, and when you break the skin and dirt gets in, then your whole body has these systems that rush there, the lymph goes there, the white blood cells go there. Now it was all swollen. I said, what have you been doing? She said, he's on his 2nd course of antibiotics. He has to have painkillers to help him sleep and sleeping tablets to help him sleep. The little fellow was only 7. I said, can I try something? She said, please. So I got 2 cups, one with hot water, one with cold, and I did the 3 times. By the end of the 3rd 3-minuter, the little boy was smiling. What did the smile say? He's got relief. And then we made a grated potato poultice about half that size for a little finger, and we put it on and we asked God to bless that. I always ask God to bless the poultice. When they got home by 2 o'clock, the little boy asked for it again, And just before bed, they did it again, and they changed the poultice every time. Whenever you make a poultice out of fresh vegetable matter, you must discard it when you've used it. And that's the beauty of the poultice. You can just discard that. If you put grated potato straight onto the skin, you'd have a big mess, whereas this makes it a lot easier to deal with. The mother said the next morning when they took the grated potato poultice off, all the pus and everything inside had come out in the poultice and the finger was back to normal. She said he didn't need any painkillers or sleeping tablets that night. The hot and colds have been used for centuries, and in the area of pain relief they're almost without equal, and they can certainly intensify the poultices.